What's up guys and girls, welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be going over some moments in the God of War cookbook of Tyr mentioning Egypt. Now I am working on a super video because there's some lore moments in this book that happen after God of War Ragnarok, before God of War 2018, and events on the world as a whole. I'm putting together a super video, but it's taken a little time considering that this is a pretty big book, but I'm doing it to help out my fellow content creators and to help you all watching at home so we can get a sense of what's happening in the future, because again, every piece of lore in this book is canon. So I'm going to tell you two moments in the God of War cookbook that Tyr mentions Egypt, and then I'm going to go over every single moment that we actually heard of Egypt in the God of War games. And I do believe that this is hinting a lot that the next God of War game is going to take place in Egypt. With that being said, let's get into some of the new information. First moment that Tyr mentions Egypt is on page 48. He talks about how the elves' racial discrimination and debate was constantly going crazy, and they kept arguing with one another, and there seemed to be no stop to the debate and the fighting that was eventually going to happen. However, there were some elves that did not want to participate in the debate anymore and wanted to live peacefully with one another. So they asked Tyr, how do other regions figure this out? How do they live in peace? So Tyr set out to Egypt for a fact-finding mission to try to figure out how multiracial civilizations live together peacefully for centuries. Tyr hoped that bringing back food would actually bring them together, and a lot of elves realized that having this debate is useless. However, they still fight anyways. The second time Egypt was mentioned is on page 55. Tyr talks about how Egyptian pharaohs often have very long debates during the hot summer. Tyr actually took drinks from Alfheim and gave it to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians often preferred to have this after a long debate session, which I think is pretty interesting. Even though we all know that Tyr failed into bringing the light and dark elves together, it's really nice that he actually tried his best to pretty much bridge the two together, Egypt and Alfheim elves. You know, Alfheim elves always bickering and always fighting over the smallest thing that really doesn't matter too much. It being the light, or even over the color of another race's skin, which is something that Atreus actually brought up as well in God of War 2018, not understanding racism. There is that really small section when Atreus brought up racism with the elves and him not being able to get it, even though Kratos and Mimir gets it. Just take a look.
So, clear this up for me. Svartalfheim means land of the Dark Elves, right?
Right.
But you said the Dark Elves have been here in Alfheim a really long time. And anyway, aren't dwarves supposed to be from Svartalfheim? They don't look like Dark Elves.
Don't you think so? Then you are vastly more perceptive than the Aesir. They're the ones who apparently can't tell the difference. And they're the ones who came up with that name. Dwarves actually call their home realm Nidavellir.
So the Dark Elves aren't from Svartalfheim at all?
Not even a bit. They're just elves of another colour. Nobody knows who came first, but they all come from Alfheim.
Why do they fight all the time if they're really the same?
That is adorable.
Huh?
It is the way of the world.
Oh. Well, that's sad.
In order to get rid of the fighting, he tried to take something that the Egyptians do, and he actually brought the Egyptians something that the elves have, but of course this will ultimately fail. I think Tyr mentions that the Egyptian pharaohs have debates because it is very similar to Alfheim. However, Alfheim's elves are always at war, while the Egyptians just have these diplomatic sessions with one another. But that's not all we learn about Egypt in this book. So far in my readings and me putting everything together, at the very beginning of the book where Tyr talks about how he became the God of War, he also mentions that a lot of the Norse gods want him to be like Ares, and of course the Egyptian God of War, saying that these two have caused so much destruction, but Tyr wanted to be different. So Tyr is aware of the stories and probably even met the Egyptian God of War at some point. So for the remainder of this video, I want to show you every single time that Egypt was mentioned in some way. In a side quest of stolen treasures, you can see the description of one of the cross items that they have. The description of this item says the civilization is both technologically advanced and ancient at the same time. They worship half human and half animal gods, and that they rule with wisdom and humility, but that might not also be true. There is, of course, that moment in God of War 2018 when you enter Tyr's treasure room and you see Egyptian artifacts there. Hell, even Atreus puts on like a helmet of theirs, but you can also find the symbol there, and this is what Atreus and Mimir talk about. The fact that Mimir says that there are many gods there and they might not all be good gods, I think it's pretty interesting, but let's move on. Of course, there's the God of War Fallen God comic series where you meet a god there, or someone I believe is a god. He definitely is not like any other civilian there. He definitely has powers and he's manipulating Kratos, talking about destiny, but he describes this land as Land of the Pharaohs. And as I described earlier in this video, Tyr describes the Egyptian as Pharaoh. So it's all kind of connected, all kind of coming together. And the last thing I want to mention is that the God of War 2018 team really decided to go with Egypt for a very long time, until the last moments they decided to shift focus and just go to Norse. And in an interview a while ago, they said that it was a lot further from Greece, right? Norse is way further from Greece and Egypt is closer, and they wanted Kratos to be as far away from his past as possible, you know, just for story reasons. And that is it for this video. Now, I want to stress that I'm working really hard to put all the canon and lore information from the God of War cookbook and make it into one video, not only for you watching at home, but also God of War content creators, just so they can use it, possibly make some theories about it, because in my opinion there's some really cool stuff in this cookbook. But again, no one wants to buy the cookbook, and I get why. I just bought it because I saw it on sale, so I said fuck it. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna be out of here. Thank you guys and girls for listening. Deuces.